Hi there, in this video I'm going to show you how to edit photos in Photoshop. So this is a before picture and this is an after picture. I got this image from Pixabay, and what I did, I just searched for face actually, but this gave me a cat. But I sorted them by popular and went to page 214. So it's actually the least popular. And I think the reason for this one being least popular is it's very dark. Let's just look, and we can see it's got 1 thumbs up. So it's definitely not very popular. So I just picked that to use for this example. Let's go to Photoshop and see what I did. You can see on the layers here, first I made a copy of the background so that any changes I made wouldn't affect the original. I brightened the image, I added some vibrance to some parts, and I darkened some of the surrounding area. I also cropped it and also sharpened the eyes. So let's go ahead and work on the original. So I'll go here, this is the original, and let's make a copy. So I drag this background down to here to make a copy, and I'm going to use adjustment layers rather than use adjust image up here. I'm going to use adjustment layers. So I'll click here and use a brightness contrast. Let's increase the brightness, and I think in this case this needs to be increased quite a long way, so not too far. I like to go too far and then too little and then go in the middle, so I think that works in the middle. This might be a little bit too light, and I could just adjust that one by putting this mask on it, just a slight mask. Make that a bit smaller, make it nice and soft, and just have an opacity of about 10 there. For this brush, I just want to, there's a few bits that may be a bit too bright here. I'm just going to paste over those. I think that's it, only a little bit too bright. I think that's about the right brightness. Maybe I'll add some contrast. Let's have a look. It does make it stand out more, but I don't want it, if I go too far then it looks fake. So I want to keep it natural but exciting and bright. So I'm just adding actually quite a bit there. 23 is quite a bit for contrast, but I do think that looks better. I'm not too worried about these bits on the outside because I'm going to change those. I'm looking more at the cat, the actual cat, and especially the bit that's in focus, which is the face. I think I'm happy with that, and I'm next going to do the crop. So let's crop it, and especially this here is, it detracts from the photo, so I definitely want to get rid of that. And let's then balance it up on the left here. I try and adjust it and then get the feeling, does it feel balanced and does it feel right? So I think there is fine. I'm not sure if I don't really want to chop the legs off. I could do, but I don't think it's good to chop the legs off, so I'm going to keep the legs in it and double click on that. Let's just double click here on the hand to make it bigger. I'm happy with that crop. Maybe I can't really crop the top at all, and I like to keep them fairly square. I don't like to have the image too thin, so I think that's about the right balance. It looks good. Let's go to the eyes next and just increase the sharpness. I'm going to double click on the zoom button here, the magnifier, and I'm going to look at the eyes. Now they're fairly clear but not completely clear, so I'm going to use this select tool here, just get the eyes and maybe the nose. With a person I would get the eyes underneath the nose, the bottom of the nose, and inside the mouth part, but for this one I think the eyes and that nose part, we want to make sure they're clear. Let's select this background copy here, that's the bit we're working on, and go to filter, sharpen, and smart sharpen will do. And what I tend to do, I put it to about 100%. I then work out the radius that I need. So I can see there that 0.6, it's actually, if I move it up and down, 0.6 is still blurred. I go to the lowest radius that actually makes it clear. So if we went up there, yeah, it's sharp, but it doesn't look real. So I go to the lowest radius that unblurs it. So that 0.4 is blurred. I would say 1 is a little bit blurred down. That looks clear. 1.7, it looks clear, and that's about the lowest. Then I come down on this to about 40%. That's just the way I do it. Sometimes do make this a different amount. Sometimes you don't need so much, but about 40% works. And I'll click OK. So now we've got the eyes in focus, which are the most important thing. Especially that's the photo is actually focused on the eyes, and the eyes are the important part anyway. So this photo, they've done well to focus on the eyes. That's that. So I want a bit more excitement on this, a bit more vibrance. Let's go at the top here and add some vibrance. Again, I can go too far. If I take it too far, then it will look fake. Some of these colors are fake. But the important thing here, I want to make sure these eyes are nice and vibrant. So I can take it as far as I want. Another way of doing it is actually going over the top and pick on if you choose the bit that is the least, maybe the least vibrant. So in other words, if I took it about there, I think now this face looks okay. This part looks good. I like this part. The eyes are fine. Maybe slightly less. I don't want any yellow in there. So this looks okay, but I'd say these colors are overdone. That yellow is too yellow, and this blue maybe too blue. But what I can do then is just mask those parts to reduce those. So we've got this part. I think this part here that's the important is okay. Maybe a little bit brown under the chin, and the ears are a little bit too brown. But we can remove that. So I've taken it too far. That 72 is too far, but it's okay for the eyes. And then I'm going to click on the mask, use a brush for this, fairly soft. This is fairly soft, also fairly big, maybe like that. And I'm just going to use an opacity, maybe 40 or something, and just remove a bit, because I think these ears have gone too yellow. Under that chin has gone a bit too brown, and I think this maybe even up here is a bit, it's kind of gone brown, and maybe these are slightly too blue and too yellow. So I've just removed the vibrance from those, but I've kept it on the eyes and everything. So I'm happy with that. I think the vibrance is okay, but I still find that when I look at this picture, I look at this yellow and blue a bit too much, rather than this image really should focus on the cat and not on this blue and yellow. So I want to do that, and I'll do it in two ways. One is I'll darken the outside, and I'll also blur the outside a bit. So let's do that. Let's go to this background copy here, and let's, yeah, we've got a copy of it already, so it's okay. Let's blur this part here. What I'm going to do is click on this round tool, and I've got a feather here of 200%. This is quite a big image. I think it's about 3,000 or 4,000 pixels wide, so 200 works for me. If you got a smaller image, you'd have a smaller number there. I'm going to, this is the focal point is between the eyes here. I'm going to click there and hold down the Shift and Alt, so I use that as a center point, and I'm going to come quite a way out. The bits I'm trying to blur and darken are right at the outside here. I think about there, and then because I've got a 200 pixel feather, it's going to like transition about here. So let's try. I need to select inverse. So now I'm selecting this outside part of it, and let's go to blur. So I'm going to go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I'll show you by taking it a long way we can actually see what happens, and that actually doesn't look too bad. I quite like that because it yeah, if I go right that far, it actually looks like we're looking over something that's near the camera. Let's just have a look. I'll come out of that and we can save this. That actually takes us away from this yellow completely. I'm going to save that as a JPEG. JPEG, and we can have a look at it later. We can compare that with these. We can compare that with the final that we actually make. So I'm going to undo that. Control Z to undo that, or Control Alt Z. Let's come out of that, and I'm not going to blur it that much. Let's go filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and let's just do it so. I really just want to do it so we're not looking at the parts there. Let's try that. Let's see what we think. It's okay. I'm not sure that it looks natural. I think it actually looks too much, that we wouldn't normally do that. But what we could actually do then is, there's lots of ways of doing this. If we did that, we could actually crop off the bottom and even crop off the sides a little bit here, and I think that would make a good picture. I'm going to just also save that, save as a JPEG, so we can just compare it. That'll be 02. I wasn't intending to do those views, but if they look okay, we can save them and then decide afterwards. So let's go back to that selection. I'm going to click here, which was the bit where we selected it, and I'm going to do that blur again. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and maybe slightly less. Okay, let's try 20 and let's stick to that. I think that's okay. I wanted to keep that selected, so I'll keep it there because I'm going to darken that area as well. But I think that looks okay. Now the head is standing out and the rest of it is kind of blurred, so it doesn't attract any attention. I'm going to make a new layer above, and I want to fill that with black. So edit, fill, and choose black, so that we darken all that outside. And then I'm just going to change this opacity so that we're focused on the cat. I want it to look natural, so I don't want it too much. I want it to look natural, but I want it to make sure these eyes and the face shows out. So I think it's okay. Those are my final adjustments. Let's save that one. Save as a JPEG, and we'll review them. See which one we like. Let's call it 03, I think it was. Save it. So let's go to that folder. It was the downloads folder, and let's just review those different ones. It was these. It was 01, 02 and 03, and let's just look at the original first. So I'm going to delete that. That was one I did earlier. I'm just going to delete so that we can see these ones. So that was the original. That was the one that I thought maybe would work. I'll just click there so we see the top. That was the one where I zoomed in, and this was the final one. So if we compare that one with the original, I can do that in Photoshop. That's the final then, and let's go back and see what the original was like. That was the original and final. Yep, looks pretty good. That's the final result then. So if you found that useful, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want similar videos about Photoshop or about using images and videos on your blog, please subscribe to my channel. If you've got any question or comment, please put them down below, and thanks a lot for watching this video. I'll see you in the next video.